got to coach better, play better.
Just, got to execute. Can't have bad plays like we had. We, like you said, we got to coach better and play better. Obviously, we are referencing Mike Vrabel's post-game interview where that's basically the gist of his interview.
I feel like he gave a little bit more this week than in previous weeks, only because he had to. Because there's got to be at least some level of accountability after a game like that, and I'd be interested to see what happens with Jonathan Joseph in the coming week.
All right, I don't want to jump into that just yet. Everyone, by the time this video comes out,
everyone's obviously going to be aware of what's happened. 31-20,
the
Titans
Bengals
fall to the Bengals.
The now 2-5-1 Cincinnati Bengals, and the Titans, after starting 5-0 and even though they lost to the Steelers last week, rallying, coming back, only losing by 3, go in and play a team that in our preview, we said that we're not looking past them, and
can't look past
and that their record doesn't show how good of a team they really are, because they've been in a lot of these games, But
at the same time, I fully expected the Titans to win this game.
Yeah, I did too.
I didn't see any scenario where they could lose, in my mind.
Well, they were going up against not only just like second-string offensive linemen. There was one guy on the Bengals offensive line that literally got called up from the practice squad, maybe yesterday, something like that. The guy that was going to play came in sick this morning. Obviously, we're recording this on Sunday, so he came in sick this morning. The guy from their practice squad, they told him he was going to play. So we thought that this was going to be the time where our pass rush finally stepped up and got
got sacks.
Right,
actually did what they're supposed to do.
And they were there.
Well, they can't. They can't tackle.
They were there a couple times, but they could not get Joe Burrow down. And that is.
They just apparently have problems tackling, and
literally 4 guys on one sack one time when they looked like they were going to get a sack on him. 4 different guys missed Burrow or let him get out of their
Harold Landry missed him twice.
And let him gain yards. Luckily,
he
didn't get the first
throughout
down.
The game, Jadeveon Clowney ran completely past him like he didn't even see him.
Well, he come in early in the game with a free shot on him and let Burrow get out of his grasp. We have to do better about that. And I'm not going to blame this game on the refs. Were there some bad calls in this game? Yes, and we will touch on those bad calls. But if you really factor it in, the missed field goal by Gostkowski and the interception by Ryan Tannehill on the first drive down in the red zone,
the lack of defense. And those are the 3 things.
That's 10 points there.
Well, that's 10 points, and then the lack of defense. Those are 3 things that really you can just chalk losing the game up to those 3 things.
And we also had the botched extra point where the snap was bad.
Not that necessarily would have mattered.
Well, no, I'm saying if you factor in the mistakes that the Titans made,
you're looking at 11 points.
Yeah, it's a tie game.
In the game, yeah.
So, but our offense did not look like our offense had been looking. About the only positive for the Titans this week was our run game in general.
Because Dante Foreman,
5 carries for 37 yards.
He looks good.
Yeah, he was averaging over 7 yards a carry.
Yeah.
Derrick Henry, 18 carries for 112 yards, a touchdown, averaging over 6 yards per carry. He should have. I know towards the end of the game we had to get away from running the ball because we were having to try and
running
score.
time off.
Right, we were having to try and score quick, but there were a lot of drives where they would run Henry early in the drive, and then all of a sudden just go away from him, and he was having success. I mean, he was gaining 5, 6, sometimes over 10 yards per carry, and they went away from it and would try and force the ball to A.J. Brown, which is what happened on, that interception that Ryan Tannehill threw. They were down in the red zone. He thought he seen Brown come open for a minute and tried to fit the ball in to a very tight space. And it didn't work out for him this time. But, I mean, like you said, our defense didn't play well. We didn't do what you said we needed to do in our preview. Joe Burrow did not look like
absolutely not.
He did not look like a rookie.
He looked like a really good NFL quarterback.
But I have, I predicted our pass rush to have, or just the Titans to have 4+ sacks this week because we've seen how beat up and just dismantled the Bengals offensive line was. And I thought that this was going to be the game where the Titans pass rush got it together, went against these backups, and just brought Joe Burrow down.
Come on.
And,
you know better than that.
I mean, 0 sacks.
You know better than that.
0 sacks.
Well, I mean, listen, this is not it's not like we've really seen two different Titans teams this season. I mean, this is the Titans team, just this game to a little bit more of a degree, but this is the Titans team that we've seen pretty much all season.
Right. I mean,
I
defense
feel like
not doing that good, and offense making up for it.
Yeah, the offense just didn't completely make up for it this game. The offense had struggles this game.
They did.
I think in some earlier games, Minnesota, Houston, Denver, and I know one's slipping out of my mind, but other than the Bills game, really, mostly this team has gotten very lucky. And I'm not saying, that I'm ready to chalk up this season to 9-7, but I said it last week that the loss to the Pittsburgh Steelers has to, make someone accountable for these mistakes and these problems. And it had to be a wake-up call to fix these things. But they continue to do the same things, and insanity. I mean, it's doing the same thing and hoping for a different result.
Right.
But they keep doing it, and obviously they're going to keep getting the same result until they do something else.
Right. And obviously, we were just kind of joking around about the Vrabel stuff at the first of this.
Yeah.
But
he's a great coach, but I mean,
it's
almost like he's stubborn in his ways, and he, for some reason, Jonathan Joseph stays out there. We talked about it all game long. He was terrible, awful this game.
He did mention in that interview, though, that him and John Robinson, after he got done with that interview, they would be sitting down and talking about possible decisions to be made over the next week or two.
Well, here's what I gathered from that. The reporter asked him, is there a certain level of pretty much how bad a player has to play before you consider replacing him? And he in some ways kind of swerved the question and also said what you said, that they would sit down and explore options. But I would say 100% something has to be done before the trade deadline.
I'm just wondering, I know that our depth at cornerback right now is not that good. We still have Adoree Jackson out. And
don't know why he didn't come back this week.
Christian Fulton's out now. But you have to wonder, is Joseph really doing that much better than other guys in practice that he gets to be put out there week in, week out? I've said this so many times, how I am tired of him when he's always playing. I think one time that I know of, he pressed. He was actually in press coverage. And the time where he did that, he just so happened to get mossed on the sideline
by Auden Tate.
I mean, it was a great catch by the guy.
Well, and let's not, look away from the fact that anytime the Titans are playing a team, I saw it on Twitter, I think from Mike Arrington, the opposing receivers turn into Jerry Rice, Randy Moss. I mean,
but the point I'm getting at is, yes, that he got beat on that, but I would much rather see him trying to press these guys and disrupt the rhythm off the line rather than standing 8 to 12 yards off of these receivers. I mean, there was one play, Burrow seen how far Joseph was off, took the snap, instantly threw it to that receiver, and it's like Joseph didn't trust himself. Instead of driving whenever he seen Burrow throw the ball and making the tackle on the guy and stopping him for maybe 1 or 2 yards, he ran up, got within 5 yards of him, and then stopped to let the receiver come to him. Later on in the game, we seen Butler play off. Burrow threw the ball quick to the receiver Butler was on, but Butler, he went for it. He drove straight to that guy and took him down. I'm tired of seeing Joseph playing that far off the ball and costing us. He is not playing that good. He took a chance trying to undercut a route, got beat for a touchdown. I mean, I don't know what he was looking at because it didn't even look like he was close to getting to the ball. He did have a pass interference called on him that got the Bengals to the 1 yard line, and
no, I don't agree with that call.
I don't think that he really interfered on that. I think it was kind of a petty call. Again, not blaming the refs here because obviously there were things the Titans should have done a lot better, and they could have had the game tied or been winning the game. But let's talk about these penalties right quick. We have that one. Then we have the
lack of penalty.
The lack of penalty where Adam Humphries
took an absolute shot
to the head. Even though it wasn't helmet to helmet, it was shoulder to helmet.
Well, and I think it was a defenseless receiver.
He was. I mean, he was
receiver call.
He was in the air. He wasn't. It's not like he caught it and was running the ball. He was in the air, laid out for the ball, and took a shot to the head, and no call.
It was completely dangerous. I mean,
it was.
Thankfully, he was able to stand up and kind of, I guess, get his wits about him a little bit before, he got carted off the field.
But then you look later in the game, and Vaccaro gets called for a hit on one of the Bengals receivers. And look,
listen, was a penalty.
Vrabel even said it was a penalty. He hit him while he was still in the air, in the head and neck area. But my problem is you have to be consistent with your calls.
Well, I mean, you can't just blatantly miss a call because you missed one earlier. I mean, I do agree they did have to call that one.
But you also want the fairness of it. I mean,
but I mean, you can't just let a one receiver get killed because you let it happen earlier in the game. I mean, that is a good point. The point is, though, they should have never let Adam Humphries get killed in the first place.
That's what I'm getting at.
Go without a call.
That's what I'm getting at is if you're going to call that one, you should have called the one earlier in the game too. Because obviously we want the players to be safe, all of that. And I guess I wasn't explaining that as well when I first started on it. But
they both should have been penalties.
Right. When I'm saying it has to be consistent, you have to call the one earlier in the game.
I agree.
And then, of course, the other big penalty was when they called the pass interference on Malcolm Butler whenever Jayon Brown got the interception that, I mean, really it could have been a turning point for the Titans because they were already going to be deep on the Bengals side of the field and possibly could have scored quick and only needed one more defensive stop to have a chance to win the game, possibly tie the game, something. And I think, when the announcers were breaking it down, Butler's timing was pretty perfect. Like, if Jayon hadn't intercepted the ball, Butler would have been getting to Green right as the ball was getting there and would have been able to knock it away.
Yeah.
But I don't know. That was a very weak call.
I agree.
believe.
I agree.
But still, Titans dropped to 5-2.
Let's go ahead and point this out. Bengals 3rd down, 10 for 15. 4th down, 1 for 1. And so that there's been absolutely no improvement there. But again, that goes back to, if you don't change anything, do you really expect improvement? I mean, I don't know what magic they're looking for. I don't know if they think that Adoree Jackson coming back is going to fix things, or Adoree Jackson and Christian Fulton coming back is going to fix things. But you can't just continue to put the same guys out there that are making the same mistakes, don't correct the mistakes, and expect magically for things to be better.
Well, I'm going to throw this out at you. I don't think one person alone is going to fix this defense.
Not.
Even when Adoree comes back, yes, it may help, but you also have to question, he hasn't played a single game this year. And we're fixing to be going into week 9. And like I said, he's not in game shape. I mean, I'm not saying he's in bad shape, but a lot of these...
Looks like he's in pretty good shape doing all those flips and stuff.
Well, what I'm saying is, I'm not saying he's in bad shape, but he's not in football shape.
Right.
He hasn't played a game yet.
Right.
So there's probably... I know you've got on me for this before, but there's probably
going to be some rust to knock
There's
off.
probably going to be some rust there. I mean, there is. I think
is Jonathan Joseph still rusty?
Jonathan Joseph is just trash. He's trash.
He's awful. And
I've been trying after the first couple games. I was going to give him a chance, but like you said, when you keep doing the same thing, you're seeing that the quarterback is getting the ball out in less than 3 seconds.
Listen, we saw that
you're playing 10 yards off the ball, even on 3rd and short.
We saw this problem in training camp. We watched videos of Khalif Raymond running routes, and we're like, dude, Jonathan Joseph just can't keep up with him.
I mean,
we saw this coming ever since training camp, and I can't exactly remember. I think maybe he played partly decent in the first game against the Broncos, but also Christian Fulton was out there. So when Jonathan Joseph actually has an assignment or a receiver to cover that is decent, he can't do anything with them.
Well, it's like he's not trusting himself.
Well, he can't, because he's going to get burned if he does.
Right. And
now, if they put him out there next week, they deserve to lose probably.
Well, again, what I go back to is he really playing that much better than everyone else in practice that they keep putting him back out there.
Probably. All the secondary is pretty bad right now.
So I mean, at this
that's
point,
why I'm saying you have to make a move.
I would rather,
you have to make a move.
If they're not going to make a move, I would rather them try and throw someone else out there and at least see if they do better. I mean, what's it going to hurt? Either way, Joseph is getting beat and playing terrible.
I mean, we've talked about 2 guys, potentially even 3. I know it would probably depend on how the Eagles do this week for the 3rd guy. But we've talked about 2 guys, Gilmore, who is kind of dealing with an injury, AJ Bouye, and Darius Slay, that all could. I mean, I know it's hard for a guy to adjust to a new team in the middle of the season, but they need help. Those guys all might potentially be available, if you inquired about them. And I would be happy for the team to make a move for any of those.
We need to make a move for someone. I mean,
but,
we can't.
But John Robinson he doesn't want to make moves at the deadline, and sometimes you have to.
Well, it may be after dropping 2 games in a row now, and one of those games being to a Bengals team that hasn't been able to close out games, and this year.
Yep.
I mean, you have to really consider.
Out this one, huh?
I mean, you have to consider making a move, even though it is the trade deadline. Because if you're wanting to win a Super Bowl, you have to be willing to try and make these moves. Because I trust J-Rob and I trust Vrabel, but I don't know that with our defense playing like they are, Actually, I know for a fact with our defense playing like they are,
We're not a playoff team.
We're not going to be able to make a deep playoff run.
No, we're not a playoff team at all. If this is the defense that goes into, first of all, we won't be in the divisional round. We'll be in the wild card round. If this is the defense that goes into the wild card round of the playoffs, we'll get embarrassed. Absolutely.
I mean, yes, our offense first couple weeks bailed us out. You know, they were moving the ball. The past 2 weeks, you look at the first half against the Steelers, they didn't have the ball that long. They just looked kind of off their game.
We'll talk about not having the ball. This game, the Bengals had 36 minutes of possession time. The Titans had 24. And they were running the ball quite a bit. I mean, the Titans ran the ball 29 times.
Again, I think that number should have been higher.
Well, if they would have done it earlier.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Before like the later part of the fourth quarter, we should have been running more.
Well, coming into the game, we mentioned it. You know, the Bengals have like the worst, or one of the 5 worst rushing defenses in the league. And, you know, I feel like the Titans just didn't really take advantage of that. And, you know, honestly, this game it's upsetting. Things have to change, but still kind of optimistic going forward. I mean, we're 5-2, and yes, there is a very tough part of the schedule coming up.
Mm-hmm.
But if you make the right moves and you get things, you know, if you get the defense where it needs to be,
mm-hmm.
to at least be decent. I'm not saying, you know, it has to be a top 5, even top 10 defense in the league, but if it can be top 15 going forward, that definitely helps things out a lot. And just honestly, I think if the defense was more consistent and better, you know, gave the offense more opportunities, they would get things clicking again like they were early in the season. And this team would be probably ready to make a run. So I'm optimistic about it. But
here's what's happened to us the last 2 weeks.
They can't be scared to make a change.
Here's what's happened to us the last 2 weeks. We have gotten outplayed in all 3 aspects of the game.
Yeah.
Offense hasn't been playing as well as they were before. Been making some mistakes. Special teams with the missed field goals, the bad snaps, and even on kickoffs. Like last week against the Steelers, we had the punt that we let them take back deep into our territory. And then the kickoff this game, we let, you know, it was right after I don't know if it was the A.J. Brown. I think it was the A.J. Brown touchdown.
It was either that one or the Corey Davis touchdown.
One of the two. And, you know, we had a little bit of momentum, and then we just let them return the kickoff to our side of the field. And then obviously our defense has been playing bad all year long. The only good game being the game against the Bills, where something magically clicked that game. I don't know what it was. I wish they could find it again. And I'm not losing hope in this team, like you said.
The Bills are a good team.
Right.
They're good.
We're 5-2.
But the worst thing is the Titans play to their opponent. I mean, they could be playing the Cowboys and just play awful.
Yeah, like you were saying, we're 5-2 though. We're very optimistic about this team, but something has to be done.
Yeah.
I mean, something has to change.
No
Whether
doubt.
it's trading for someone, benching someone, cutting someone. I mean, we got to have something.
I know that you're not a fan of this halfway through the season, but hiring a defensive coordinator. I know, you know, Vrabel said, you know, he's like, well, yeah, whatever. That's definitely not the problem. It might help, though.
I don't know that I'd be big on hiring a defensive coordinator halfway through the season. Just because then they're going to have their own scheme that they're bringing into it. And
well, it might be better than the one that we're running right now.
But you're asking your guys to adjust to something like that during the middle of the season, where if you just trade for a cornerback, you know, I can understand like a linebacker or a defensive lineman needing to fit the scheme that we play. But if we trade for a cornerback who is
It has to be a lockdown guy.
right, who's a lockdown guy, you could say, okay, here's who you're matched up with this week. You go do your thing. Like that's
Or even, not even necessarily that, but hey, you're taking care of the left side of the field this week.
right. So either way, changes have to be made somewhere. We have to do something.
Or else, you're in danger of throwing this great start to the season away. I mean, 5-2, any team obviously that's under 5-2 would be happy to have that record, and obviously now the Colts have the same record as the Titans.
We're tied for first place.
That's why right now. That's why right now is the time that something has to happen, because you can't let the Colts start to take this lead, and create a gap between them and the Titans in the AFC South.
And I believe in the next 4 weeks we're going to play them twice.
Those would be huge games.
If I'm remembering the schedule right, we have the Bears. Then I think
which could be really bad.
We have the Bears, the Colts, Ravens, and then I think the Colts again.
Yep, that's a tough stretch.
It is. And
tough stretch. The Ravens played a good game today.
Maybe this game is I know we said this about the Steelers game, but maybe this one is actually the wake-up call.
Yeah.
For this
team.
And
I think because, you look at the end of the Steelers game and you're like, well, we just got to play like that. We don't have to change anything. We just got to play like that. Well, this game obviously shows, hey, that's not working.
Right.
It's not working. So obviously right now is the time that things need to change. And I'm sure we'll know some things by our game preview for next week on the podcast. Mm-hmm. So hopefully there will be some changes that have been made, and we'll be able to, to discuss those, kind of analyze them, and see how they might affect the team going into the game against the Bears.
Yeah. So, again, rough game. This game, we've got to figure some things out. But
time is of the essence. But if those things happen, we're still in a good spot. So there's no reason really. I mean, it's not like we can go out there and make these moves. I mean, there's no reason really to get upset about it. We're in a good spot still.
Right.
And we definitely could still see a deep playoff run. We
need to cut down on the mistakes.
Well, the players do. I think we're doing a great job.
I'm just talking about the Titans in general.
Yeah.
Got to cut down on mistakes.
Got to coach better. Got to play better.
Got to coach better and have to play and execute better.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it comes down to. But no change in the outcome to this game. Titans fall to 5-2. We're on to the Bears.
Yep.
That's going to be a home game for us, I believe. So, on to the Bears. We'll see what happens this week, if any moves get made.
Hope so. Really hoping.
But yeah, this was a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah, it was a tough week. Can't win them all. Well, you could win them all, but it's not likely. So we knew that there were going to be some of these weeks, and the Titans are always a team that throws away a game or two throughout the season. Normally it's a lot more than that, but even in the good years they throw away a game or two, and I mean, nothing we can do about it now.
You're right. I mean, nothing. Like I said, nothing we can do about this game.
In the offseason, we signed Jadeveon Clowney, we signed Vic Beasley, and we're looking at this defense and we're like, this is not going to be a problem at all. This is going to be great.
Well,
So now you get here and you're like, well, Clowney doesn't have any sacks. Vic Beasley has no sacks. Our cornerbacks suck. Byard's not playing great. He's not playing bad, but he's not playing great. And
and the defense, I mean, some people are saying it's the pass rush. Some are saying it's...
I think it's both.
It is both. Because if you think about it...
And a little bit of coaching, maybe.
With our secondary playing so far off and allowing quarterbacks to get the ball out in under 3 seconds.
Yeah.
Even the best pass rushers in the league are not going to consistently get to a quarterback in under 3 seconds. But at the same time, our pass rush has to step up to help out our secondary. I mean, that's just how it goes. And
bring JG from Tennessee and put him throwing to a receiver matched up with Jonathan Joseph, and he's probably throwing for like 250 and a couple touchdowns.
Yeah, I mean,
with it being JG, he might eventually, throw one 15 yards down the field to where Joseph's standing before the ball snapped. But I don't know. It's tough. But hey, looking forward to next week, especially if they make some changes, because I would love to see for Adoree Jackson come back for next week's game. 2, make a move, hopefully get a lockdown corner.
I would.
So
that's
then
the move I want to be made.
You're playing Adoree. You're playing whoever we might get if we make a move. You're playing Malcolm Butler. Jonathan Joseph is either A, sitting on the bench, or B, sitting at home. And you make the quarterback hold the ball for over 3 seconds, maybe 4 occasionally, get a couple of sacks. That would be best case scenario for next week.
It would. I don't know. I was having high hopes for our pass rush this game, and if they can't...
It looks worse than last year.
If they can't get to Joe Burrow, whose offensive line has been just horrendous this year. He was tied for being...
Not only have they been horrendous, or maybe they found the fix to their offensive line with all these new guys.
But Burrow's been sacked 28 times this year, which is... I don't know if the Eagles have already played by the time we're recording this or what, but he was tied with Carson Wentz for the most sacked quarterback in the league. And we couldn't get to him.
The Eagles, I don't think, play till tonight.
We couldn't get to him one time.
Yeah.
And like I said, with his O-line being horrendous, when we go against people with good offensive lines, I can't have any hope for our pass rush then.
Nope.
Hopefully they can get it together and get there, but I'm not going to lose faith in this team.
No.
5-2, we still have a winning record right now. We just have to get back on track. Our offense has to get back going, and we got to figure something out on defense. I don't think I have anything else on this game. Do you?
No, I don't. Hey,
all right. So
sounds like you've got a good plan.
We're on.
I say let's put it into action.
We're on to the Bears. Getting ready for that game. Like Tanner said, we'll have our preview for that.
And hopefully we'll be talking about a lot of changes. We'll be talking about a new team and hopefully a top 15 defense, maybe.
So, be looking for our preview for that Bears game. Find us on
Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Spotify, all of those.
They'll be popping up on the screen where you can find our podcast. You can find us on all those podcasts and apps. Just search Titans Time. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast. Leave us a 5-star rating. Leave us some comments and some questions. We make sure to always look at those, and if you leave any questions, we get them answered on the next podcast.
Also, check us out on Twitter at Titans_time. We always enjoy to interact on there throughout the games and everything and throughout the week. Check out our Instagram, Titans Time Podcast, on our YouTube. So make sure that you go ahead, like, comment, what else? Subscribe, of course.
Turn on the post notifications.
Don't steal my stuff.
And share the video.
Don't steal my stuff. Also, what am I missing? The website, titanstimepodcast.com. And also our Facebook. Trying to get our likes up on there. It's looking a little depressing right now. So go ahead, like our Facebook page. That is Titans Time. And I believe that's it. This has been Titans Time. And as always, tighten up.